There, I think there was a spot designated over here-ish, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then it's the intent that the speakers will go to the podium?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Your name? Okay, all right. I just back I can hand it to you.
How are we looking?
That's fine.
And then you and I can coordinate the all case file, check it out.
Okay.
And that's
So the way I have it set up is I have your
It's just like a version plan now.
here. Then I have a copy for each board. So I can just give it to you again with that. Same thing for our time. I'll save that on the record.
Make sure if it's
Yeah, but I just want to be able to do it during
Okay, cool. I'm into that. Yeah, Dean, I'd like to. I'll try
So even if when a lot of people might have sizes so those who are sitting right in their own number something. Oh,
Gentlemen, it's not on yet, but it's something you have to time it.
Looking rather slow.
Are you recording the proceedings as well?
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
I think how it works.
It is recording.
Yeah.
So I should have a-
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'd be more interested in that. Somebody says something and I don't know what it is. It's gonna have a picture, probably Dean knows, so that kind of thing. So that was mostly it. I know that these things do tags, so that helps. As long as I can hear it.
Okay.
I think what we should do is we should convene on the record, do everything we just talked about, and then go off the record to do the thing and then come back. Because otherwise you have this resolution that talks about what they're gonna do and what. I think that might be better. So let me just confirm. So in your report, our counselor already considered, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if you want to say something like that, just start. The town is going to convene and have a resolution. And do their spiel and vote on the resolution. It's basically a resolution that they got the petition, they're gonna choose some chairperson by law. But the actual part where we go, pick the person, we're gonna go off the record and do that. Okay. And then we'll go back on the record once that person is ready to make it start. Okay. Is that one right there?
God's got a human hand in it. No, it's got all the spray.
Oh, yeah.
Do you need the box that they give you? Oh. What's that? Are you writing all the names down?
No. It's all names, it's from the law. Okay, you guys can nominate a person. Did you want to nominate?
Oh, actually.
How you doing? Busy?
How this goes. No, actually, well, that's what I'm saying. It's not- well, not a lot of people want to do public hearings. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I think they're run great. Well, yeah, that's too. Problem. So that's the only thing we don't do. Do it again? I don't tend to interrupt these things.
I'll try to use the whole sentences.
Well, whatever you do, just say loud and clear.
Hand sanitizer. You guys. You want to know what? Basically, they had to eat my slot. Well, no, that's what you're doing. So we're using the box to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think okay, you're all in there. Why don't we have Brenda pick one? Is that fair? Oh, well, we're gonna go off the record to do that. So I'll just leave it here. So when we go off the record, pick the person, you're gonna pick the name. Okay. Is it okay, Brenda, to pick the name?
Absolutely.
So, okay, so we'll go off the record.
Brenda, we're friends now. Let's be friends by the end of the night. Just joking. So are you local?
No, I'm down in the Albany area, but I've got family here. I grew up in the area, so the trip's not that bad.
My mother does similar work for Social Security, and she'll set up to come up here pretty regularly for cases and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, small world, huh?
Wow.
This is a submission from the town social right here. Okay.
If you're gonna not be in the box, then you come over and up.
Hi, everybody. Again, if you haven't signed in, please do so. Come next to the front door. Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready? No?
Good evening, folks. My name is Michael Cashman, Plattsburgh Town Supervisor. One of the requirements is we need to convene our town board to be here this evening. So if you could allow us just for a moment to do some administrative stuff. The Town of Plattsburgh Town Board, September 24th, 2020. This meeting will be called at 6:05 by the presiding officer at 130 Arizona Ave, Plattsburgh, New York. Can I get a roll call, please?
Michael Cashman.
Present.
Thomas Wood. Present. Meg LaFave.
Here.
Barbara Hebert.
Here.
Charles Costick. Here. James J. Coffey. Here. Pietra Zafran.
Here.
All are in attendance. This is for a joint public hearing resolution 2133. The Town Board of the Town of Plattsburgh establishes the meeting of the chair to the joint sessions of public hearing on the petition of annexation of approximately 224 acres of real property located on River Street in the Town of Plattsburgh, tax map numbers included. Is there a motion to waive the reading and to go straight to a vote?
I make a motion to waive the reading of the resolution.
Councilor Hebert, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Costick, can I get a roll call, please?
Thomas Wood. Yes. Meg LaFave.
Yes.
Barbara Hebert.
Yes.
Charles Costick. Yes. Michael Cashman.
Yes, we'll now move forward to selection of a chairperson. Thank you.
And go straight to a vote.
I too, as mayor of the city of Plattsburgh, would like to reconvene the meeting that had begun at 5 p.m. at City Hall. May I ask, first of all, for a roll call of those in attendance?
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Moore.
Here.
Counselor Barbell.
Here.
Counselor McFarland.
Here.
That's it.
With regards to continue the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dean Schneller. I'm the city attorney for the city of Plattsburgh. We're going to go off the record briefly to select a chairperson by the lot, which basically means we're going to draw a name out of a box. Anything you want to add?
Sorry.
You want to add anything?
No, I think I'll just cut that. Calling it. Mike Kelly? Mike Kelly?
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly. From the city. Can you go?
Hello, everyone. I've been asked to read a statement. This is a joint public hearing of the town of Plattsburgh and the city of Plattsburgh regarding the annexation of a 224-acre parcel of land situated on River Street in the town of Plattsburgh, identified as tax map parcel numbers 22.-4-31.2 and 22.-4-32. September 24, 2020. Thank you all for attending this joint public hearing to listen to presentations, then provide comments concerning the petition for annexation to the City Council and the Town Board. The purpose of the public hearing is twofold. First, it is to provide you with information concerning the petition for annexation. In this regard, after opening statements by the mayor and supervisor, representatives from the city will present the annexation petition, followed by a response from the town. The second purpose is to elicit testimony and receive evidence and information from members of the public about the proposed annexation so that each board can determine whether the annexation is in the overall public interest, which is the standard for approving or rejecting the annexation under the New York State General Municipal Law. Following the municipal presentations, there may be brief statements by respective board members and then members of the public who indicated they wish to speak on sign-in sheet will be called in turn, and then members of the public who wish to speak on the virtual platform, Zoom, will be called in turn according to when they virtually raise their hand. We'll ask that members of the public limit their presentation to 3 minutes. Anyone who wishes to comment but did not include that they wish to speak on the sign-in sheet will be given a chance to speak at the end after we have gone through the sign-in sheet and virtual attendees. Members of the public who did not indicate that they wish to speak but have evidence or information to submit on the topic of the annexation may do so by submitting such evidence or information to the chair of this joint hearing. Further, absent any objection from the respective boards, the boards will hold the public record open for 1 additional week, so that written comments may be accepted by the clerk of each municipality for 1 week after this proceeding. These additional written comments, if any, must be submitted no later than the end of business on October 1st, 2020. The New York State General Municipal Law, which applies to all municipalities in New York, establishes the process governing annexation petitions. Pursuant to the General Municipal Law, comments must be limited to the issue of the petition for annexation, specifically to comments relating to the form or content of the petition and comments relating to whether the annexation is in the overall public interest. Pursuant to the General Municipal Law, anyone who objects to the form or content of the petition must also submit their objections in writing to the City Council and the Town Board. Form and content objections include that the petition does not substantially comply in form or content with the provisions of the municipal annexation law under Article 17 of the General Municipal Law. This requirement to provide comments in writing does not apply to objections or comments regarding the issue of whether the annexation is in the overall public interest. To maintain order and decorum, the municipal boards have also agreed on the following ground rules for this evening's hearing. Each public comment must be limited in length to 3 minutes. Anyone who exceeds the limit will be asked to finish their comment briefly and stop speaking. This is important to ensure everyone here tonight who wants to speak has the opportunity to do so. All comments must be directed to the boards and not to any members of the audience. Please note that the purpose of this hearing is not to provide a question and answer session about the annexation. The purpose is just to receive comments and or objections regarding the annexation from the public. Most importantly, the boards require that all those attending be respectful of everyone here tonight, whether providing comments to the boards or simply listening to the speakers. This matter is important to a number of people from different municipalities, and each person is entitled to provide his or her comments about the proposed annexations to the board. No cheering, applause, booing, name calling, chanting, or other similar behavior will be tolerated, whether in support of a statement someone makes or in opposition to it. Neither will any personal attacks on any members of the board be allowed. Please remain quiet while comments are being made so that we can all hear the comments. All this will help ensure the boards receive the information necessary to make their determinations and will move this meeting along in an orderly fashion. We ask that everyone keep their mask on during the entire hearing and maintain social distancing. There is sanitizer available. This meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, so you are free to leave after making your comment and observe the remainder of the hearing via the live stream. We thank you in advance for your courtesy and cooperation.
You're gonna turn to the agenda now, and you turn to the agenda now. So now, turn to the agenda. Just now,
Okay.
Statements and following. Right.
Okay. The first item on our agenda tonight is opening statements, and Mayor Reid, City of Plattsburgh, will go first. 5 minutes.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I don't expect I'll take the full 5 minutes. I'm very grateful that you all could make it here tonight. Thanks for coming, and thanks for observing the live stream and participating in the virtual platforms. We're very hopeful that you will keep an open mind as we review the history of this city-owned parcel and then highlight the bright future for the entire region of this annexation effort is successful. I hope everybody's familiar with the property we're discussing. It's on the south side of Ruger, essentially across Ruger Street from the Consumer Square complex to the north. As will be discussed, the standard of annexation is the overall public interest. At the conclusion of the city's presentation, and after all public comments are received, I believe that it will be clear that the overall public interest strongly supports annexation. In my role as mayor and as the economic professor, I performed an analysis of the impact of annexation that I shared with Supervisor Cashman when I brought it up with him 2 years ago. The economic analysis of providing inexpensive city power to the city-owned Ruger Street property is profound. While the land has been dormant for decades, economic developers have said that it would be highly desirable if the city could bring inexpensive power to that location. There's even better proximity to the industrial site up the road at the former Clinton County Airport, and it's easily large enough to entertain such projects as vertical farming, high technology industry, or other various industries that support our local transportation and aerospace industries, but only if we can bring some of the cheapest and 100% renewable industrial power to the nation, to that site. You will see a conservative estimate from the city's assessor demonstrating the tremendous tax base increase if we can only bring that expensive power to the site and have that property developed. The potential job creation would be a huge boon for the local economy and would generate hundreds of thousands of dollars to various municipalities near the location. In particular, the town of Plattsburgh, its fire districts, and the Beacontown School District would benefit substantially as these jobs are created and the new economic activity is spurred. This is because the lion's share of these potential employees would likely reside and shop in the town. The county would also benefit if we can only bring inexpensive power to the site. If annexed, it is true that the town and Beacontown School District will lose some tax revenue in the short term. It's also true that if developed, the current deficient traffic signals and intersection may require upgrades, even though anticipated traffic is a fraction of what used Consumer Square across the street. And I understand the town of Plattsburgh is currently upgrading that intersection now as we speak. The question is whether the lost tax revenue or traffic upgrades would be made up for the potential tax revenue and economic boom to the region from a fully developed parcel. We will hear evidence tonight that the potential benefits greatly outweigh the potential detriments. But to minimize those already minimal detriments, I'd offered a couple of years ago to the town supervisor and the Beacontown School District superintendent a variation of a pilot type agreement for the affected jurisdictions to ensure that they receive their current relatively low value of property taxes for the underutilized land until we can establish the higher level of economic activity will replace such payments for them manyfold. That way we can assure everybody wins and nobody loses if we can only bring inexpensive power to that site. The city has tried to collaborate with the town for years on this site. Though before my time as mayor, it's my understanding that in 2005, the town had expressed a willingness to simply consent to the city's request for annexation then. For reasons that are not clear, that formal consent never materialized. Nonetheless, the city never abandoned its goal to improve the region. More recently, in July of 2018, I reiterated the city's request for collaboration. Unfortunately, that request was rebuffed, and the city has been forced to go through a lot of extra steps today that brings us to today's hearing. I'm grateful we are finally here after a couple of years in our attempts to collaborate. I hope we don't have to wait another couple of years to finally be able to start creating the high quality jobs that our region, our town, and our city so desperately needs. You'll see a conceptual master plan developed by the city's consultants and professional staff. Well, this is only a concept. To fully realize, you'll see that the potential is endless at that location. I noted that this concept was developed to be in line with the town's existing plans, as the goal was to support the town's planning goals where feasible. You also see an improvement for the region's recreational access by the improvements to the recreational trail along the Saranac River to the south side of this property. The simple, undeniable fact remains that the city owns this parcel. This is a city-owned parcel that happens to be in the town. This 224-acre parcel adjoins the city boundary, but it has natural boundaries of the Saranac River, Ruger Street, and I-87. For many years, the parcel remained largely underdeveloped, but if this annexation is finally approved, the future looks very bright indeed. Today is hopefully a good start and a new beginning. I thank you all for coming. I know many of you don't live in the city, but you all value the city, with its amenities, its history and cultural industries, its hospital, college, and churches. All of us need the city to survive. This is the first and likely the last opportunity in generations for the city to pick itself up by its bootstraps and generate the jobs it so desperately needs to survive, merely by bringing land it already owns into its boundaries so cheap electricity can entice new activities. I appreciate your willingness to help us all. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor Cashman. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Reid has said, and I quote, "Our future cannot be dictated by artificial lines on a map. We have to look for places to develop, and we expect and assume we're going to have cooperation to do so." This source was recorded by WCAX-TV and reported by NCPR. The town of Plattsburgh was founded in 1785. Then a portion of the town became the village of Plattsburgh that was chartered in 1815. That village then grew into what is now known as the city of Plattsburgh in 1902. The village and city leaders over the years have purposely made decisions to push themselves away from the town. These municipality boundaries are not arbitrary. They are not artificial. Now the city is trying a hostile annexation. It is well documented over the last 60 years to date, the town of Plattsburgh has planned, invested, and stewarded the town proper to undeniably become the Clinton County's economic hub from the center of commerce to manufacturing clusters. The town has made historic investments in infrastructure and optimized state and private investments to continue our strong trajectory to elevate Plattsburgh. During the same period of time, the city has squandered and mismanaged opportunities. One could point to the failure of planning for comprehensively, instead publishing white papers and pushing personal agendas, all evident by the outpouring of disenfranchisement by the public engagement. It can be argued that the city of Plattsburgh does not need more property to mismanage. What they need is a plan to manage what they have. Again, we, the town of Plattsburgh, have a legacy of planning and a proven record. We have done so and continue to do so in the interest of our residents in the greater region. Tonight, we will hear from the city as to why they believe the annexation of 224 acres of land within the town is in the overall public interest. To be successful, it should meet the highest standards, as it will have a lasting impact on generations to come. It is critical to understand the granular details. to examine facts. So I urge the public to join me in asking the following questions. The city claims that it is built out and suffers a lack of developable land. How so? What will be the adverse financial impacts to the town of Plattsburgh, Beacontown Central School District, District 3 Volunteer Fire Department, and Clinton County? What is in the town's record of development versus the city? What is the formal plans that the city has for this property? The city has expressed that this land would be developed as an industrial park. How do the residents in Ward 3 feel about this? And what is the need for more industrial space in our region? The city wishes to advertise its cheap electricity. What will be the cost to the MLD customers if the city recruits a large industrial scale electric customer? What are the plans for the old compost plant? What will be the impact on public safety? Both the city fire department and city police have been on record with concerns regarding staffing and impacts to service levels. How has the city definitively demonstrated that this annexation is in the overall public interest, not just for the city, but overall public interest? And this is for the record, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda are presentations and key witnesses. We'll start with the city of Plattsburgh, 45 minutes. Thank you.
I'm gonna take my mask back up here and I'll make sure to Lysol the mic when I'm done. Hello, everybody. My name is Melena Tamer. I'm the planner for the city of Plattsburgh. I used to be a planner for the town, so this is very exciting for me to be up here right now. So now that we have heard opening statements, we'll start the presentation part of the hearing. As previously stated, the city of Plattsburgh, as petitioner, is seeking to annex approximately 224 acres of uninhabited city-owned property located in the town of Plattsburgh on the city-town boundary. So I'm going to try to briefly summarize the process thus far in the city's case supporting annexation as it pertains to the overall public interest, and also touch on land use and zoning. I say briefly, but as you guys all know, this is a complex and important action, so I apologize if we get a little bit bored during my presentation, but I do speak pretty fast, so hopefully we can move through it quickly. So after I'm done my presentation, I'm going to invite the city's expert witnesses to speak to their respective area of expertise. So first, a quick overview of the subject parcel. Mayor Reid already went over most of this, but just again for the record, the property is accessed via Reeves Lane off of Ruger Street and is bounded to the south by the Saranac River, to the east by private property in SUNY Plattsburgh, to the north by Ruger Street, to the west by I-87. Although located in the town of Plattsburgh, it is adjoining the city's boundaries. The property is primarily in an industrial zone, with the northern portion located. The northern portion located in a service center commercial zone. It is largely vacant and underutilized, but is home to a regional compost facility originally owned by Clinton County and operated by the city. The city was deeded the compost facility in 2011, and 10 years prior, in 2001, the city purchased an adjoining 133-acre former Norco mine parcel. Then in 2018, for the primary purpose of relocating the municipal lighting department, the city purchased an additional adjoining 43-acre parcel. All of those parcels were then merged into the existing 224-acre parcel that exists today. There are no inhabitants on the parcel and is located in the Beacontown School District, and the assessed value of the property is approximately $2.5 million. So now that we have a good overview and understanding of the site, we'll jump right into the annexation process so far. So this annexation was initiated in 2018 when the city requested that the town consent to the city's annexation as authorized by section 706 of the GML. Unfortunately, the town declined this request, seeking instead to require a public hearing under section 705 of the GML. So now that the annexation was forced to go through the public hearing process, the first step was an environmental review of the impacts of the proposed annexation. So therefore, in January 2019, the Common Council adopted a resolution which determined the proposed annexation as a type 1 action and expressed its intention to serve as lead agency. A coordinated review was conducted and involved agencies were notified. The town was the only involved agency to respond to the notice and objected to the city's intention to serve as lead agent. The lead agency dispute was then referred to the Department of Environmental Conservation, and DEC Commissioner Stagos reviewed the materials and determined the city should be lead agency by a letter dated May 15th, 2019. So now that the city was the lead agent, the secret process review began. The city utilized the services of AEDA and various sub-consultants to prepare a conceptual master plan and to review potential impacts of the proposed development. The sub-consultants prepared a number of studies, including a natural resource inventory, a phase 1 literature search and sensitivity assessment, a traffic assessment, and a phase 1 environmental site assessment. And although these studies were conducted to review the full build out of the site, it was noted the city would not actually be undertaking all of the uses included in the preliminary plan, but would seek to encourage private development consistent with the plan. So subsequently, a Part 1 long form was completed, and council then completed a Part 2 seeker at their May 7th meeting. For all of the moderate to large impacts identified in that Part 2, the council then expanded upon the concerns in a Part 3. It was then concluded that the annexation will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and the proposed action did not require the preparation of an environmental impact statement. So now that the environmental review process was completed, the city served the town of Plattsburgh with a formal petition to annex on August 4th. For the record, I will state that the petition was in order and does satisfy the requirements of GML 703. The city then completed all of the noticing requirements, and proof of this will be submitted for the record. So the ultimate standard in determining whether the town should consent to the city's annexation petition is whether the annexation is in the overall public interest. And that's why we're here tonight. So factors to be considered in determining the overall public interest include the benefit or detriment to the annexing municipality, the territory proposed to be annexed, and the remaining governmental unit from which the territory would be taken. Benefit and detriment are typically defined in terms of municipal services such as police and fire protection, health regulations, sewer and water service, public utilities, and public education. So jumping right in to the benefits to the city, it's noted that there is existing infrastructure on the site, utilities and roads which service the site. And all the existing infrastructure, including the roads, water, and sewer lines, are currently maintained by the city and will continue to be maintained by the city at the same level of maintenance post-annexation. As development occurs, infrastructure needs will be reassessed. Therefore, in this case, the positive impacts from annexation will be more economic than environmental. For example, upon being incorporated into the city, the property could benefit from the cost-effective industrial and commercial electric rates offered by the city's municipal lighting department. It would also provide land to house the city's MLD substation, as well as the city's DPW storage yard. In addition, there would also be substantial additional acreage for further development to attract prospective industrial and residential development. Along the Saranac River, the subject property could also provide improved public recreation access as an extension of the Saranac River Trail. Once annexed, not only will the city residents save substantial real property taxes, but the city's professional fire department and emergency service technicians could provide enhanced emergency services for the site. Further, any residents in the future would be able to attend the Plattsburgh City School District, which is less than a mile away. The property has long sat vacant, and any development spearheaded by the city would obviously be a benefit to not only the city, but to the region. This annexation will mean a 7% increase in developable property in the city. Property with a potential development for housing, mixed-use retail, industrial, solar farms, and recreational trails. And all of this would enhance the city's tax base for public safety services such as police, fire, and EMS services. And not only will the annexation increase the tax base for the city, but it'll also decrease the annual tax liability for the city. Tax liability is currently approximately $44,000 in school taxes and $26,000 in town taxes. In regards to land use, the annexation will allow for future zoning regulations that enable greater residential, commercial, and industrial development than is currently allowed in the town, but will still be complementary to existing town zoning. As stated earlier, the property is currently in 2 different town zoning districts, service center and industrial. The service center allows for a mix of commercial uses, but not residential. This is in direct conflict with the newly adopted Town of Plattsburgh Smart Growth Plan, which identifies a small section of the subject parcel along River Street as possible T3 zoning, which is zoning designation for single family and moderate family density residential development. Preliminary city zoning identified in our conceptual master plan for this site has been identified as residential 2 along Ruger Street, which allows for a mix of housing and small commercial uses. The interior of the site would remain industrial, which will allow for a myriad of manufacturing and accessory uses as well as planned unit developments, which enable and encourage flexibility of design. The city's proposed zoning is actually more in line with the town's smart growth plan than current town zoning. Last but not least, a benefit for both the city and the region is the expansion of the city's ability to offer 100% renewable energy. This diversification of energy will reduce the region's dependence on fossil fuels, which furthers the region's, the state's, and the nation's sustainability goals. Of course, there's a balancing act of positives and negatives with any action being taken. And as far as a detriment to the city will have to provide additional services, of course, expanded water and sewer distribution, electricity, police department, fire department, EMS services. However, it is the opinion of the city that these services will be superior to existing services, and the cost of these services are expected to be offset entirely by increased tax revenue. A conservative estimate of the taxable benefit based on a full build-out of the property, as shown in the concept plan, was provided by the city assessor and will be entered into the record. So now looking at the benefits and the detriments to the town. The property has remained largely undeveloped for decades. If developed pursuant to the master plan, the town will benefit in a number of ways. Residential development will support the town's commercial and retail services, as the property is within a mile of the town's commercial hub on Route 3. Residential development will also support the town's need for additional housing in response to an increased workforce. Similarly, industrial development will benefit the town, as it's fairly assumed that a number of employees will patronize and support town businesses, and a number of new employees attracted to the area will likely reside within the town. In regards to a detriment to the town, if developed consistent to the master plan, there's a potential need for traffic control devices in the future. Both the town's traffic study of Ampersand Drive and the city's traffic study conducted for the seeker confirmed deficiencies on Ruger Street. The city is well aware of the traffic impacts of development, and the city and prospective developers will address any future needs in coordination with the town community development departments and the highway department. Another identified detriment to the town is the overall size of the town will decrease by approximately 1%. In addition to the reduction in land mass, there will also be a decreased tax base. Although the town will lose approximately $26,000 in tax revenue, it would also see a reduction in services required from the town departments. Lastly, it's possible that a previously identified bridge connection from this parcel to Route 22 and the Plattsburgh International Airport may be impacted by development. Yet the feasibility of this bridge connection has not been fully studied or actively pursued by the town. Regardless, the city as a property owner would be necessary to any bridge connection project and also has a vested interest in continuing the conversation around an airport connection. So overall, the annexation will cause numerous substantial benefits to the annexed territory, and any possible detriments will be offset with improved public services and tax benefits. So lastly, another factor in determining if the action is in the overall public interest is whether a cohesive community will result or if an existing one will be disturbed. When somebody says Plattsburgh, one thinks of not just the downtown or the uptown, but the collective area as a whole region. The city's conceptual master plan, which identifies residential mixed use along Ruger Street, complements existing land use and the town's current zoning and proposed smart growth overlay district. The parcel is also within a mile of the former Clinton County Airport, which is currently being redeveloped for industrial use. The redevelopment and investment in the former airport indicates there's a need for this type of development in the region, and therefore, again, supports the city's conceptual master plan. In addition, the city has also identified recreation opportunities along the Saranac River, which is in line with the goals of the regional Saranac River Trail Greenway. The city is currently updating its comprehensive land use plan and zoning ordinance to reflect the city's current vision and goals for growth, including smart growth planning principles with a strong emphasis on economic development and renewable energy. Overall, annexation of the property will support a cohesive community through conscious economic development achieved through intermunicipal partnerships, zoning, and community planning efforts. Okay, so that was my spiel. So now that we've fought our way through the discussion on process and overall public benefit, I'd now like to invite our consultant engineer, AEDA, to discuss the city's conceptual master plan and associated studies as they pertain to future site development. Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. The city does have a number of documents to submit to the record, and I'll just read that list really quick. It is a narrative, a seeker and supplemental studies, a petition to annex with exhibits, a public notice and affidavit of mailing, proof of publication of public notice, estimated taxable benefits analysis, and a conceptual master plan mapping.
Thank you, Melina.
I forgot my mask up here.
Oh.
Sorry.
So my name is Jim Abdella. I'm with AEDA here in Plattsburgh. I also have my colleague, Mike Kuhn, here as well. We were retained by the city back in 2018 to assist with technical representation, engineering, and actually architecture at the time for proposed development on this property. There's been a lot of summary given so far in terms of the size of the property, 24 acres, location of the property, at least verbally. We assisted in actual development of mapping, reports, and other technical data to support what you've heard so far tonight. So once again, we are looking at a 224 acre parcel. If you focus on the screen now, we have an existing conditions plan, which does show the parcel. It is a bold outline.
I apologize. Can everybody still hear me? Okay. Our laser pointer isn't working as well with the screen. So bold outline of the parcel here. It is bounded to the north by Ruger Street, to the south by Saranac River, to the east by SUNY Plattsburgh and existing private properties within the town, and to the west by Interstate 87. We do have Reeves Lane, which is a drive that the city owns and serves currently to the compost facility. That also has private water and sewer laterals and power that service the site from Ruger Street.
Jim, is that mic wireless?
Yes. Looks like it is. You might want to just bring it with you. Go to the board.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. Once again, mapping shows bounds of the parcel, city-town boundary here, utilities, water, sewer, power, and road that currently exist today. Next mapping shows existing zoning conditions as they exist with the town of Plattsburgh. The property, again, shown with the bold boundary. The purple area is currently zoned industrial. The front area of the city portion is zoned service center, along with some of the private properties to the east. There is a small section of neighborhood commercial along Ruger Street, along the northeast of the map. And then we do have a recreation zone of about 150 feet away off of the Saranac River. Okay. Ultimately, we did come up with a number of studies which were outlined. They were part of the record within the seeker review. I think Melina went through a number of them. We developed a phase 1A environmental assessment, phase 1A railroad research and sensitivity assessment, traffic assessment, and natural resource inventory on the property, which once again are all part of the record to give background on the property. Now we'll move into our proposed development plans, which I'll turn over to Mike for overview.
So the previous plan we looked at was the existing zoning map for the town of Plattsburgh. The map currently up would be from the concept reviewed by seeker, the proposed zoning map. We chose zones comparable within the city's existing zoning ordinance that are complementary to both the existing town zones and the proposed zone changes with their smart growth plan. As such, the blue would be the industrial zone, which is the same encompassed area as the town's current industrial zone. And then the yellow on top, adjacent to Ruger Street, would be a residential zone in the city of Plattsburgh that allows a variety of uses, which we'll look at on the next slide. The zone along the river, similar to the town's zone, would be a recreational corridor that would allow for the expansion of the Saranac River Trail and also connectivity to the adjacent Ruger Woods use on the SUNY Plattsburgh parcel to the east. For the purpose of the seeker evaluation on the lands themselves and what the uses could be coordinated with the lands, we prepared a master plan concept. It's based on the zones that we just looked at. Along Ruger Street to the north of the property, we show residential parcels, and then along Reeves Lane, we show a few complementary uses in line with the objective of residential living in terms of being able to have access to walkable community type uses such as convenience store, small clinics, and also like a daycare or similar use. So those would all be allowed uses within the city's zoning use. Then behind that property extends the industrial district. And within that area, we really looked at a variety of comparable industrial light manufacturing type uses that are prevalent around Clinton County. One important thing, as Milena previously touched on, is the former Norco concrete plant. When that facility was closed, it was not remediated or revegetated per the DEC standards. So this project as a whole would provide an opportunity for private development to come in and remedy those ills that were done previously. So along the east side of the industrial area, those would be uses consistent with things you might see around Clinton County. So those are larger parcels with buildings 30 to 40 to 50,000 square feet, associated parking areas. In the northeast corner of the zoning where Ruger Street curves, we also conceptually laid out an area where City Department of Public Works could potentially relocate, or another city facility should they have a desire to have more space to create a new facility. So we've worked that into the concept. As you go towards the Saranac River area, there of course is the existing compost plant facility. We've encompassed that in a large area that's in purple. That's general municipal and recreational uses. As anyone that's been out that way, mountain biking, hiking, river access, they all currently exist. So in the concept, we tried incorporating some of that for the benefit of the public going forward. That's essentially the uses that we displayed for the purpose of seeker, and they use these to analyze traffic, other impacts. It gave an area of development for the environmental side of the reviews that we coordinated. A lot of the findings were that a lot of this land was previously disturbed, and it remains disturbed and it's not been improved. So this was the use plan. And then in terms of utilities that will support these uses, as previously touched on, the city has the city has water and sewer mains that extend down Reeves Lane that serve the former compost plant. So those are all in place and available for continued use. And with that, we'll turn it over to John Ruff with the City Department of Public Works.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Jonathan Ruff. I've been the environmental manager for the city of Plattsburgh since 1992. My main responsibilities are the city's drinking water system and wastewater treatment system. And I do know some of the history of the subject property, which I'm going to touch on real quick before I jump into the water and sewer specifics. The compost plant was built by the city in the mid-1980s. The county was technically the original owner. They got the grants and issued the bonds for the project. There was an intermunicipal agreement that provided for city taking over ownership once those bonds were paid off. The facility operated through 2005. Since then, the operating permits have been maintained, but the sewage biosolids that the city generates has actually been sent to other sites for disposal. The city did assume ownership of the plant in 2010 and renamed it the Plattsburgh Organics Recycling Plant. The 100-plus acre Norco property was purchased in 2000 to support the composting operation. It's now used to support city DPW operations. And it was always anticipated that these two properties would be annexed once the city took title to the compost plant. City Mayor Dan Stewart and Town Supervisor Andy Abdallah seemed to be making progress towards that back in the day, but it was obviously never completed. More recently, in 2018, 43 adjacent acres were purchased along Ruger Street, and those 3 properties were subsequently combined into one. Now, when it comes to drinking water service, when the compost plant was built, new water and sewer lines were constructed to service the plant by existing town wastewater and drinking water infrastructure. About 5,000 feet of new water line was installed from the plant along Reid's Lane out to Ruger Street, where it connected to the town supply on the north side of Ruger, about 100 feet east of the intersection. If continued use of town water is not feasible, the existing city water line can easily be extended about 1,000 feet and connected into the city water supply. The city water system has significant excess capacity and it's extremely reliable. It flows completely by gravity from upland surface water sources through the treatment system and to the city users. This was especially evident during the ice storm when water supply continued uninterrupted. The city has triple source redundancy with 3 separate sources distinct sources of water: Reid Reservoir, the Westbrook Reservoirs, and the Saranac River. There's also triple raw transmission redundancy, conveying water from these sources to the treatment plant. And there's a double treatment capacity, double storage capacity, and redundant transmission into the city where it's distributed to the final user. We recently had a safe yield engineering analysis performed that indicates the yield of the city's combined 3 sources, even during historic drought, is almost 10 million gallons per day. The city's average daily flow is only 2 million gallons per day. Its peak daily flow is 3, so it's got between 3 and 5 times the capacity it actually needs. Therefore, the city water supply has the ability to serve just about any conceivable project on the subject property. We've also been aggressively pursuing even more reliability improvements, including groundwater wells, piping improvements, and treatment plant upgrades through state grants. City water system is more than able to provide the necessary supply for the proposed annexation site as it exists, or for any reasonable future development. The water system has got much more capacity than the town's water system, and at a lower annual cost. I'll provide an exhibit to demonstrate that. For a typical user, annual cost for a town user would be $427, including the special assessment district charges. And but only $331 for city user, which is 21% less. This can vary depending on the type of user that would be out there. The city's rate is just based on usage, how many gallons per day you discharge. The town has a similar usage type structure, but also has a special assessment district charge based on the assessed value of property. So the higher a property is assessed, the more that charge would be. Due to the excess water capacity that the city has, so the city's actually in position to offer even more attractive rates to potential developers. The town does not appear to have that ability. On the sewer side, the city provides wastewater treatment service not only to city users, but to most of the town through an intermunicipal agreement that runs through the year 2039. The rate that the city charges the town escalates every year. Town sewage is conveyed into the city at a number of entry points where it's then transmitted to the city water resource recovery facility, or WRF. When the compost plant was built, a new sewer line was installed all the way from the plant along Reid's Lane to Ruger Street, and then east along Ruger Street about 1,000 feet to within 100 feet of this city line. It's very simple to connect directly to the city system if necessary from that point. The WRF has significant excess capacity, which can be marketed to developers at rates lower than the town can provide. The city's industrial rate is $1.71 per 1,000 gallons. The city's non-industrial high flow user rate is $3.99 per 1,000 gallons. The town sewer rate appears to be in excess of $6.48 per 1,000 gallons, not even including the special assessment charges based on assessed values. Those SAD charges could approach the usage charge depending on the value of the property. For residential users, typical residential user, it looks like the town's annual cost is about $605, including the SAD charges. While the city's annual cost is only $452, which is also 25% less. City sewer system overall is more than able to provide the necessary treatment for the proposed annexation site as exists, or for any reasonable future development. And in closing, I'd like to say that for the record, during some of the back and forth between the city and town and the legal proceedings, assertions have been made about the city's ability, the water and sewer systems, to provide service to the subject property. And I'd like to say for the record that those claims are without merit. Both the city water and sewer systems are extremely reliable and cost effective and have significant amounts of excess capacity. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Bill Tracy, the manager of the Municipal Lighting Department. I've been filling that position for the city since 2007. And I will discuss the electrical infrastructure for this site. The city of Plattsburgh has enough clean, renewable, and electrical power to easily service this property. Our transmission system has the capacity to deliver the needed electrical power to the site. If annexed, our electric tariff permits our utility to provide full electrical service to the property. Our electric rates are very inexpensive, which is a huge benefit to our electric customers. We have one of the lowest rates in the state of New York. That is due in part to our hydroelectric contract with the New York State Power Authority. This contract has just recently been extended to September 2040. Electrical power would be brought into the site using our existing distribution system from our existing Ruger Street substation and extending it up Ruger Street to Reid's Lane. Our system currently ends at Kennedy Avenue, but can easily be extended to the property. This approach would allow us to bring an initial 10 megawatts of power to the site. This would allow initial development of the site while a substation on the site is being designed and built. This would also allow to our 46,000 volt transmission line to be extended to feed this new substation. The transmission line currently crosses Ruger Street near Kogan Avenue, so it's about 3/4 of a mile away. The substation would be designed so that it could grow as development and electrical load grew on the site. If the site is developed and not annexed, then we would not be able to bring this valuable resource down to help leverage this properly and help develop it. That is my comments this evening. Thank you. Good night.
Good evening. Scott Wallace, City Fire Chief. I want to give a few comments about the fire and EMS and other emergency services that we can provide. A little background on the Fire and Emergency Services Department. The City Fire and Emergency Service Department is a career department consisting of 37 individuals, including the fire chief. The department holds an insurance service office public protection rating of 2, which is an upgrade from 3, which happened 2 years ago. The lower the number, the better the insurance rates are. It doesn't work out significantly for residential, but for commercial properties, it offers a significant decrease in insurance rates. The City of Plattsburgh Fire and Emergency Service Department has the capabilities to provide fire, advanced life support, water rescue, confined space rescue, and hazardous material mitigation. All members are trained to the standards of career firefighters set by New York State General Municipal Law. All firefighters exceed the New York State required 100-year training yearly. The 37 members are self-contained breathing apparatus certified, which allows them to make entry into interiors that are ideal age. As of 2012, all new hired members are also required to be nationally certified firefighters. Along with EMS, 24 members are critical care EMT certified, and the remaining members holding New York State EMT certification with a projected 6 paramedics in 2021. Recently, we signed an MOA with the collective bargaining unit, with the union, and we are going to be implementing a second EMS unit for responses in the city, and that will be happening late 2020. 25 members are also hazardous material technicians to make up the majority of Clinton County hazardous materials response team. It's not all, but it's most of them. In analyzing the annexation, there will be no increase needed for our current standards, what we have in our current manpower. As far as responses, we've had multiple fires that we have found, several to Westwood and 1 to Ruger. Our estimated crew arrival to Reid's Lane would be 6 minutes, as 5 minutes was to Westwood. So we're projecting another minute response. Upon arrival, we will have EMS and fire capabilities to initiate an immediate mitigation of any emergency that we find within 6 to 7 minutes. That is what the City Fire Department offers. That's what our EMS offers, and I thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Levi Ritter. I'm the police chief for the Plattsburgh Police Department located in the city of Plattsburgh. So I'm just going to comment on a few things related to the annexation and future use. I've been at the police department since 2004, so I'm familiar with the property. It is something that as a police officer, we've routinely maintained physical security of certain facilities on that property. So it's not something that we're unaccustomed to servicing, as if you think of policing as a utility. And in this case, I would argue that police service is a utility. Within our department, we have both a patrol and detective division, so we're adequately staffed to investigate major crimes all the way down to minor violations. In our response time to that site, it's at or less than 7 minutes. Typically less than that, because we have the way that we station our patrol units. There is a zone that we have where an officer is stationed in the west end of the city. So typically we have a very short response time. We're also accustomed to providing police service for other city departments that are located in the town of Plattsburgh, notably water facilities, Department of Public Works, and now Municipal Lighting Department. So this would not be anything foreign to the police service that we currently provide to those locations. In terms of future use, as it stands right now, we are adequately staffed to provide the police service to those locations as we would do today. There really is no difference. But in terms of future use, we have the ability to assess staffing based on the needs of that future location. So the ability to flex our staffing would also come into play should that be an assessment of the needs for the future location. With that, thank you.
Next on our agenda are presentation and key witnesses for the town of Plattsburgh, 45 minutes.
Too short for these mics. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pietra Zaffron. I am here before you, City Council of the City of Plattsburgh and the Town Board of the Town of Plattsburgh on behalf of the Town of Plattsburgh to make remarks. But before I begin, I did want to note for the record that we have submitted a correspondence submission writing to the chairperson this evening and to both respective boards, in addition to exhibits A through G. A is a petition, B is a letter dated August 24th, 2020. Exhibit C is a letter dated June 19th, 2020 from Trevor Cole to the city. Exhibit D is an affidavit of Brian Dowling dated September 23rd, 2020 with tax receipts as well. Exhibit E is an EMS mutual aid plan dated 10/26/2011. Exhibit F is a 2004 updated MFA plan, and Exhibit G to said correspondence is a 2017 revision of a county mutual aid plan as adopted originally on January 18th, 2017. In addition to the aforementioned documents, for the record, I would like to note that we have submitted objections to the form and content of the petition to the representatives of both municipal bodies this evening, as well as to the chairperson in writing. And I will begin with those objections. As a matter of, again, preliminary housekeeping, It should be noted that the town is appearing here this evening under protest for numerous reasons as outlined in a litigation proceeding that was commenced in Clinton County Supreme Court. We object to the notice of hearing that was issued in this matter and the proceeding itself. Therefore, we're proceeding under protest and without prejudice to any and all rights of the town to contest the validity and notice and conduct of this hearing, as well as challenging the May 28th, 2020 negative declaration under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, also known as SECR, regarding the environmental impacts of the annexation in whole or in part in a court of competent jurisdiction. So for, again, in addition to that, we have to go to the beginning in terms of where this all started. So for several decades, the city's owned a parcel of land that was approximately 177 acres in size, situated within the town near the corporate limits of the city. And as has been noted this evening, sometime in around 2018, the city began purchasing additional parcels of land. And the target is the annexation ultimately, as they have disclosed, and ultimately that is why we're here this evening. Now, initially the city publicly announced that it planned to use part of the property to relocate its city municipal lighting department. However, since making that announcement, the city has proceeded to purchase different real property and relocated its district there. And that's important because at no time in this proceeding this evening and any of the materials that we've heard or will hear, I submit to you that there is not an active planned development. Everything that's been put forth from the city and continues to be put forth from the city in addition to the SECR proceeding is all speculative. Notwithstanding the foregoing, and obviously in the midst of a global pandemic and this ongoing state of emergency, the city pressed forward with its agenda to attempt to annex the property, and in a flawed fashion, I would submit to you, by purportedly noticing a joint hearing this evening that we did not consent to. Nonetheless, we are here to participate and protect the town's interests and the interests of the public as a whole. I won't get into the details of our legal argument as to why the notice was invalid. I would refer you to the pending litigation as I stated. It is index number 2020-000-20563. Suffice it to say that we were not properly notified of this proceeding this evening, nor was the public. We did not consent to the notice of hearing. There are required notifications by mail that need to be done under the statute, and I'll get to that in a little bit, that were not completed here. And under the statute, if those mailings are not completed by the town, the city has an opportunity to mail to the special districts, the school districts on the town's behalf, but it has to wait until 40 days after publication of the notice of hearing, which in this case, publication was on August 24th, 2020, and that time period, that waiting period did not occur, nor did the mailing. Initially, we would submit to you, in addition to the flawed nature of the notice for this proceeding, the petition itself does not substantially comply in form or in content with the provisions of Article 17 of the General Municipal Law. One of the things that we need to understand here is that the General Municipal Law is complex when it comes to annexation processes and procedures for a reason. There's a lot at stake here. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generational event that, if it were to proceed, will impact future constituents of both the town and the county for generations to, the town and the city for generations to come. Saying that, and with that being said, therefore, the municipal annexation law requirements are precise, complex, have a very strict procedure that needs to be followed, and there's case law that's developed over time within which we have to work to analyze whether this annexation is in the overall public interest. But before you even get to that, the petition itself has to comply with what we refer to as the form and content provisions of the General Municipal Law. Specifically, GML 703, subparagraph 3, requires that the petition be signed by the owners of a majority and assessed valuation of real property in such territory assessed upon the last preceding assessment roll of the local government in which the territory is situated, in this case the town. And there must be attached to the petition a certificate of an assessor responsible for the preparation of such assessment roll, certifying to such facts. Here we submit in our written comments and objections to the petition that the assessor certification of Mr. Brian Dowling that was included with the petition is technically deficient and not in accordance with GML section 703. In addition, the proposed annexation must be evaluated as to whether it is or is not in the overall public interest, and that's the other main reason we're here this evening. Those requirements are set forth in section 705, subparagraph 1E of the general municipal law. And within 90 days of a public hearing properly jointly held on the matter, the boards must make a determination that proposed annexation is or is not in the overall public interest. And there's a list of what they need to consider. Number one, of the territory itself proposed to be annexed, the area of land that we're talking about. Number two, of the local government or governments to which the territory is proposed to be annexed, in this case, the city. Number three, the remaining area of the local government or governments where the territory is situated, in this case, the town. And number four, of any school district, fire district, or other district corporation, public benefit corporation, fire protection district, fire alarm district, or town or county improvement district situated wholly or partly in the territory proposed to be annexed. Notably, in the comments you've heard so far from the city's representatives, we haven't heard from the school districts. I just told you that the mailings that were required to special districts did not occur. It is imperative that that be analyzed in this process. The statute requires it. In considering benefit or detriment, we must consider whether the annexation is in the overall public interest, and it's necessary to weigh the benefit or detriment to the annexing municipality, in this case the city, and you weigh that in comparison to the territory proposed to be annexed and to the remaining governmental units from which the territory would be taken, in this case the town. Also importantly, to evaluate and balance whether this overall public interest requirement is met, the governing board should consider whether the annexed municipality and the territory proposed to be annexed have the requisite unity of purpose and facilities to constitute a community. That's fact specific. It needs to be considered on a case-by-case basis. And you'll be hearing from Mr. Trevor Cole on this topic and as to whether or not the town and the city meet that criteria. In this case, the city, as I said, will not be able to show the requisite unit of purpose and facilities as will be demonstrated by the testimony that you will hear this evening by the witnesses produced by the town. In particular, we talked about the petition itself and the failure to adhere to notice requirements, but in terms of the actual merits of the annexation, one of the things that has to occur before the public interest determination is made by the respective boards is that seeker must be completed. We also know that the city protests the negative declaration in this case that occurred from the city on May 28th, 2020, as well as procedural failures that we submit were committed under seeker, and I won't get into those here, but I note that for the record. Now, turning to the substantive issues presented by the proposed annexation, as I said, after due deliberation, the joint bodies, once they properly convened and after the environmental review is completed, must make these findings about the overall public interest and the petition sufficiency. I refer to the petition, deficient. It needs to accurately depict the area to be annexed. What I want to note is there's many references in the record to two tax parcels here. Tax map parcel 220.4-4-32 and 220.4-4-31.2. I submit for the record that those parcels do not in and of themselves accurately depict the total annexation area that is proposed to be annexed, yet that is what is referred to throughout the city's petition and supporting documents. In addition, the assessor certification does not appropriately certify that the majority of the assessed valuation of the total area is owned by the city. It certifies as to the ownership is the majority of the city on only one of the tax parcels. The proposed annexation is merely a potential revenue generator for the city, and it will result in a financial detriment to the town and importantly, the underlying school district, the town central school district. And on numerous occasions, the city has publicly stated for the record that a primary purpose of this annexation is a tax saving measure. The goal seems to be here to acquire a mechanism to raise revenues to the city without raising taxes paid by the city's existing taxpayers. Again, because there's no actual development to point to. The only actual concrete effect that we can look to that will result from this annexation is purely financially driven. And we know, simply by looking at assessment tax records, as of 2020, the loss of the assessed valuation resulting from the annexation would be a direct financial hit to the town, county, and school district in excess of $71,000. If the city continues its efforts to move forward with the annexation over the town's projections, the end result will be an expensive and likely protracted legal proceeding in which both sides will spend taxpayer dollars to litigate issues central to the proposed annexation, including, as I mentioned, the form and substance requirements and whether it's in the overall public interest. Ultimately, thus, if that litigation occurs, which is required by the statute, by the way, far from providing benefit to one municipal entity over the other, the protracted litigation would ensue as a result, rather than solving the city's financial problems, would simply add to them. And when I say it's required, if one board votes yes and the other board votes no, the remedy for that is for the party that wishes to proceed, the petitioner, in this case the city, would have to appeal to the next level of courts in our system in New York State, which is the Appellate Division, 3rd Department. And at that point, you're in a full original proceeding, which requires reference, a referral to a panel of referees designated by that appellate division, and a full trial on the merits of whether the annexation is in the overall public interest. It's a long, arduous process, again, intentionally, because it should not be taken lightly. The town's provision of municipal services to the property is more than adequate, and there is no evidence that such services would improve if the annexation is approved. And one of the things that was notably absent, from the city's presentation is references to mutual aid agreements. We need to balance the benefit and the detriment here. And what's important to note is the mutual aid agreements, they really level the playing field. In our submission, in the town's submission to the record, there you will find exhibits E, F, and G, and they are precisely that, mutual aid agreements. The county EMS plan, the Clinton County Mutual Aid Plan for fire disaster and EMS services, and the fire mutual aid plan that was automatically adopted. Importantly, the county EMS plan is intended to be completely reciprocal. Also important, the fire plan agrees to respond with one engine or engine tanker to other department districts. Special District 3, which is over the territory currently, is a party to that agreement. And very importantly, that agreement says that the county fire plan shall not apply to the city of Plattsburgh Fire Department with regard to receiving mutual aid. It only applies to the city with regard to giving mutual aid. So I would submit to you that any transfer of this property into the city would immediately be impacted by that provision in the mutual aid agreement. The annexation will negatively impact the town and the school district and the surrounding communities. One of the things that we haven't taken into consideration here is the Beekman Town Central School District and its constituents and the students that attend there. They don't just come from the town and the city. There is going to be a ripple effect from losing that revenue that hasn't even been discussed here this evening. And without notifying those critical parties that are required by statute, we are not truly evaluating this evening whether or not this is in the overall public interest. I submit to you, both boards of the respective municipalities, that this should be voted no.
Mr. Chairman, if you give me a moment to get this set up.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that I wore my champion shirt tonight, not just to look like a hipster with a sport coat and a t-shirt, but because I think it's our sort of our unity symbol for our region. Champion is a symbol of our region. And if we can't agree on this, maybe we can still at least agree to share champion. Find the right one. We're dealing with technology here. We have multiple flash drives. We're trying to pull from here. Next one there. There we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Trevor Cole. I'm the senior planner for the town of Plattsburgh. Accredited by the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've been at town of Plattsburgh for about 10 years now, just over 9 actually. And I was asked by the town board of the town of Plattsburgh to prepare a report and assess the overall impacts of annexation. So we've done that, and we've come to a few conclusions. First of all, that this annexation is unnecessary. The annexation is unwarranted, and it's actually harmful. First of all, this annexation, from our perspective, is without cause. In the vast majority of instances, annexation is for the purposes of fulfilling a need. One municipality adjacent to another, it needs a water service, it needs a utility, or there is an overwhelming pending development such that would not happen without the provision of services from one municipality to another. In this instance, none of those metrics are met. The site has no pending development. It's currently served with substantial water facilities. There is not a city main in that property. It's actually a private lateral. The parcel is served by town public water. The sewer connects to the city, but via town laterals. It's got NYSEG electric, fire protection, ambulance, and lighting districts. It's completely served. No one is requesting additional service. There's no pending development. The annexation is without cause. The purported hardships relative to tax payments and the burdens of owning this property, we would posit are self-created. Initially, the site last year, the idea was to annex this and put PMLD there. Since the city has purchased other property in the town of Plattsburgh and Sharon Ave and relocated to that site. And there was a pattern of purchasing here. You can see the 133 acres were purchased in 2001. And relative to an existing agreement with Clinton County, the city was deeded 44 additional acres in 2011. So they owned 175 plus or minus acres. But it was told to the public that it was necessary to acquire another 43 acres, which was assessed at $400,000, was purchased for $1.2 million in 2018, purportedly for the purposes of putting PMLD there. PMLD is not there. It has since been relocated. These hardships are self-created. And to note, the city could address these through other administrative remedies. It could sell the property, or it could grieve. We have an affidavit from the town assessor stating that in his time at the town, about as long as I have, just over 9 years, he has not received any grievances from the city of Plattsburgh, not for these properties or any property that the city owns in the town of Plattsburgh. So no grievance at all. This annexation is a form of prospecting. We've heard many times tonight the word if. If we could put our cheap electricity there, we could do this. We have all these ideas. This is a list, and please ask for these slides afterward. We can provide them to the public and the press and anyone who wants them, city councilors. These are the myriad of quotes about all the potential things that could happen at the site. But we're not dealing with potential. We're dealing with real existing impacts of now. And I should note, on all those plans that were shown tonight, most of these are the first time anyone's ever seen them. There are no publicly vetted plans for this parcel. There was nothing that you saw here tonight that was something that went through a planning process with the community that everyone voted on and said, you're right, we should do this on those 219 acres. And I think, to be fair, the city's had a fairly weak track record of commercial and industrial development and job creation. Conversely, the town has had what I would say is an impeccable record of commercial and industrial development and jobs creation. The town sees hundreds of thousands of square feet of new development every year on end without cheap electricity, purported cheap electricity. We've never seen the hundreds of thousands of square feet of development and had somebody say, gee, we're not coming here because we don't have cheap electricity. I always joke that the supervisor never misses a ribbon snipping. This is just this year. All of this development was without any of the city's reported cheap electricity. Just a quick snapshot. In the last 24 months, the town has added 300,000 square foot of commercial and industrial development. That's constructed. With another 200,000 in the wings that has been approved by the planning board and is awaiting building permits. 500,000 square feet in the last 24 months, including 80 units of multifamily housing. And not to poke at the politics of this, but there's one site downtown that's only 4 acres with 17,500 square feet of commercial development and 104 units. It's taken 4 years, still is not approved, and that opportunity is waiting. And in the meantime, in the last 24 months, we've approved 500,000 square feet of commercial and industrial development. Many of those jobs which are filled by city residents. Talk about regional impact. I want you to focus on this image. And that is the overlay of the proposed annexation area over downtown Plattsburgh. It includes all of downtown, including Harborside. That yellow box in the middle is the site of prime development. What's on the line here is a municipality that states we want 219 more acres, and here's what we think we can do with it. And sitting there in the middle is a little dot that demonstrates a failure to date to get a tiny proportion of that off the ground. This annexation is unnecessary. This is very important. The city has a lower building density than it had almost a century ago. And the city has a lower population than it had in 1990. The 1990 census showed that it was 21,255. Now we're down to 19,515. With a declining population and a lower building density, the need for annexation is rendered moot. You don't need more land. This community needs to figure out how to revitalize what it has. I would argue that this annexation is in direct opposition to smart growth. In fact, from a planning perspective, it represents perhaps the least desirable form of development, sprawl. We've stated you have a lower population than you had and a lower building density, but you're telling us you need more land. I'll make these slides available, but I think you should grab them and read that definition of urban sprawl. Some images. I'm a fan of Plattsburgh. I want it to thrive, but I don't know the exact date of this, but it's an image pointing out to where prime development would go. I see a lot of buildings. I see lots of buildings, lots of density. Now I see a lot of vacant space and pavement. This is an image, I believe, down Margaret, vacant space on the right. This one I love, and this is just nice to look at. This is, you'll notice that stone wall on the right, that's in front of the county building. That's across from the Coffee Cat. Now we have empty spaces and parking lots. The city is not built out. The city is nowhere near built out. The city needs more interesting, innovative zoning, and to embrace that, it is not anywhere near built out. The region does not need more industrial development. This is a map that shows in blue. I wish I could get a little closer. Temporarily. This is the proposed annexation parcel. Completely surrounding that are multiple industrial parks, hundreds of acres, 600 acres at the former county airport, 122 acres on Banker Road, 220 acres of industrial on Nomad Drive, the new international airport, 300 acres of old park property, 350 acres where the quarry is and Trade Road, none of it built out, all of it served by public water, public sewer, fire, lighting, fully served. From a regional perspective, smart growth, there's no one asking for more industrial land. Certainly, the town is seeing incredible rates of growth of industrial properties and jobs without that need for electricity. And as I stated earlier, no one's asking. This is not in conformance with the smart growth plan or a regional plan. And I point out that the county and town and development corporation recently partnered an unprecedented partnership to increase utilities and road access in the former county airport, demonstrating that we're in compliance with the county's more regional perspective of economic development and industrial development. And also have you see where that proposed annexation parcel is, jams another batch of industrial property in the middle of multiple residential areas. This plan is the proposed concept plan that was provided by the city. The first time the town ever saw this was when we were issued the negative declaration determination. But we figure if this is good enough for the city to use as its example of what could happen there and why development should happen, we're going to use it for analysis too. This annexation will cause harm today. The city does not pay the town $26,000 in taxes. It actually pays 11. Ms. Tamber's numbers included what they pay to the county, not the town. But the town would today lose $11,401 in lost revenue to its service districts, including our fire districts, which do provide mutual aid. $45,226 in lost revenue to Beacon Town School District. Keep in mind, this is year on end, year on end, year on end, year on end. And wouldn't include any future value added to the site. We're going to use their plan. If it's good enough for their secret analysis, it's good enough for our analysis to show harm. The concept plan, this plan will cause harm tomorrow. The concept plan showed 44 lots. That's $250 a lot, $11,000 in lost revenue to the town from its recreation fees. The plan showed about 300,000 square feet of development, which I think is very conservative when you saw that lot laid over the downtown. $120,000 in lost revenue from building permits at 40 cents per square foot. When we look at the 30 lots that were residential, average home in New York State is 2,500 square feet. This is without a garage. $20,000 in lost building permit revenues. But more importantly is the loss of jurisdiction. The town would have no say in whether these meet our comprehensive plans, meet any of our zoning, but the future losses. So all of this value that gets added to this site is compounded in the future. We lose that. This isn't anecdotal. This isn't prospective. This is factual. Additional future losses. This is important. This is sort of heady. We'll focus on it. The assessed value of the town is higher than the assessed value of the city of Plattsburgh. We're about 1.52. The city is about 1.49 billion in assessed value. However, the city receives more in sales tax distribution than the town. It's undisputed that the town provides the vast majority of retail sales tax revenue to Clinton County. We have the hotels, big box stores, malls. We have all of that. However, the city gets proportionally higher distribution of that revenue. It's because they get their allotment by population. We get ours by assessed value. That is, we don't get to choose that. Ironically, no matter how much the town improves and benefits and how much we develop, the city will always get a higher proportion of the sales tax revenue than the town. So arguably, they're already receiving the highest and best benefit by remaining in the city, and they're getting the higher percentage of sales tax revenue from our development. This is a fact. Another important chart. Please take it home again. This is taking real stuff. The city claims its cheap electricity will attract economic development through companies wanting to build there and have industrial development. The existing property is assessed at $2.5 million and pays about $71,000 in town fees. If it were to be relocated in the city today and bought at its price by a private developer, it'd pay $102,000 in taxes, just straight from the Clinton County tax rolls. Well, let's make it real. Nova Bus. Most people know Nova Bus. It's in the town. It's about a 150,000 square foot bus manufacturing facility. Employs probably over 350 people. It's assessed at $8 million. It currently pays the town $84,640 a year. If it relocated in the city today on Reid Lane, it would pay $140,000 in taxes. That's just to the city at its rate of 17 something. I'm not sure how paying that much more in taxes is a good economic development approach or a way to create economic development, but that's my opinion. But I wanted to show it also with the school tax. At $8 million assessed value, if it were paying Beacon Town school tax, which it does, so straight from your Clinton County tax rolls, it says they pay $144,000 a year. If they relocated into the city today, they would pay the city school district $186,000 per year. So about $96,000 more per year, just in taxes, to be relocated to that parcel. I'm not sure how that's the overall public interest. I think there's potential for cheap electricity to be the first casualty of this annexation. Cheap electricity has been used as a loss leader to attract development to this site. It's been reported widely, that when the city exceeded its energy allotment per year, about 104 megawatts, I believe, due to Bitcoin mining, they had to buy energy on the open market, which according to the mayor via Press Republican can cost 7 times higher. And household bills can be as much as 300 times higher. Well, I think there's a discrepancy there between offering your cheap electricity to manufacturers to come in, but knowing that you could exceed that. And when you exceed that, you have to buy it on the open market. The Public Service Commission partnered with the city to help this crisis. And they created a rule. That rule said they can now charge high energy users a higher rate. That's good. Maybe that creates new revenue. The problem with that is that Public Service Commission rule does nothing to create more energy to the city. So no more cheap energy. And it also does nothing to protect the regular residents and consumers who would still pay the higher rate, potentially 7 times higher. So what happens when you attract all that new development and you consistently seed your allotment? I think that's just a big question that should be answered. Case law prohibits annexation for the purposes of avoiding town laws and regulations. 2 of the large items, one existing, the compost facility exists at this site, and solar is a proposed use. We're unaware at the town that there's either a local law that regulates solar in the city, nor a local law that regulates solid waste management facilities. The town has both, and the city issued a NAGDEC saying that solar would be a compatible use. We found that to be anecdotal at best, and one should know that quick assessment, I'm not an economist, but I'm a planner with a calculator. We actually have a track record of approving solar in the town of Plattsburgh. That was about 30 acres in size. The landowner will get about, let's just say $20,000 a year in lease fees. At $1.2 million of assessment of a purchase for that 43-acre parcel, that would be about 77-year return on investment. Annexation is not supported by the city's comprehensive planning. The city's plans, the 1999 comprehensive plan does not support or promote annexation, and actually, it doesn't promote industrialization in this area. This is directly from their own comp plan about the West End zoning. It actually advocates for protecting the residential character of that end of town and protecting the single-family home character. This is their own slide in the upper left below that star shows their own proposed zoning for the area. It didn't look like they wanted to industrialize that area. The annexation is also not supported by the town's comprehensive plans. In 2010, Mayor Reid actually was chair of our comprehensive planning committee. And the opening paragraph of that plan reads, "The town does not advocate growth for growth's sake." We've seen several instances here that taxes are what we need to grow, without evidence that growth is necessary. However, the town has had extensive planning already in place for these areas that specify what should happen in this area, including the subject parcels. We would argue that the annexation is hostile, obviously, we don't want to do it, and we've made claim that we're somehow obstructionists, but there's really absolutely nothing wrong with not wanting to be annexed. When you have your own comprehensive plans, your own land use plans, and your own regulations. Certainly in a home rule state, there's nothing wrong with opposing annexation when there's no proposed development and no one asking for your services. The annexation is excessive. We've already showed you overlaying downtown how massive an area that is to increase your city by 7% with no plan. And finally, it's gerrymandering. Let's look at this. Its contiguity is on riverside slopes, wetlands, inhospitable, accessible area, and it totally subverts a whole part of a whole community and a whole street that would be subject to the city's zoning on each side of it, but without being able to have redress. You don't have to mail out notices to those properties when you're doing site plan review, when they're in another municipality. I don't think this speaks to the unification of town and city plans. Matter of fact, it just gerrymanders way around dealing with that community at all. And presumably, they didn't go and talk to all the residents and business owners on those properties because they would have to consent. And they would have to consent to the issue of much higher taxes that I've already showed you tonight. This just shows the difficult slopes. It shows that this area will never be accessed through this area. It's impractical. This parcel will always be accessed by a town road and entering into the town. We have determined that the seeker review is woefully incomplete. The city did not coordinate with the town. I've participated in hundreds of seeker reviews and many of them type 1 actions. And I can fully attest, I've never experienced as little coordination and cooperation ever. I did not have one consultation with the city. The city has a traffic assessment that shows massive detriments to the town. We never received it until the neg deck. They showed phase 1 reports. That plan that we could have spoken to and offered was never offered to us, not once. And the night that he typed the action wasn't even on the agenda posted on the website. How were we to arrive there and have that discussion about potential impacts? We were never consulted. And the city made a negative declaration after identifying several moderate to large impacts. And I mean, one of them that you can see right here is traffic impacts. At a minimum, they identify $870,000 worth of traffic impacts at 3 different intersections, I believe 3. And that traffic study was based, it states that it was based on the assumption that the town would have already completed its intersection improvements of Ruger ampersand. Well, due to COVID-19 and reduced sales tax revenue, we aren't. So the information in that traffic study actually paints a rosier picture, and it says we almost have $1 million worth of traffic improvements. The seeker largely ignored the fact that the town has a comprehensive plan. It identifies it that we don't have a comprehensive plan in the seeker part 1, and it also ignores that we have a waterfront plan. Its own part 1 doesn't even identify that it's on the Saranac River or it contains scenic or waterfront areas. In simple summary, I hope I've laid this out here, and please meet with us after this. Please ask for these slides. This annexation is simply without cause, unnecessary, and clearly we can demonstrate that it's harmful. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
In person. Well, my vote is. Yeah, but I guess we can make it available to the councilors or board members if they want to speak first.
Okay. Okay. The next item on our agenda is public comment. And any board members or city councilors who would like to come forward may do so first. Anyone? Okay, and we have speakers who have filled out the form here to speak. The first name is Michael Cahoon. 3 minutes per speaker.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike Cahoon. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for EMT at CDPH. And I just wanted to share with you the services that we provide for the town of Plattsburgh. We cover ambulance district number 1. Within the contract, we do provide 24/7 coverage. Within that time frame, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., we provide 2 ambulances. They are ALS equipped. They are staffed by critical care technicians the paramedics, and then from 11 at night to 7 in the morning, the next morning, we provide one ambulance with that same type of service. One thing I will add is that during that time frame, if I have my transport ambulances are available, we also augment that service, providing additional ambulance coverage for the town. The other thing I can say is we do provide mutual aid. I know that was mentioned tonight, and that's per the agreement within Clinton County. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mike Stafford from Morrisonville EMS.
Good evening. My name is Mike Stafford. I'm the president of Morrisonville EMS. My scope is very narrow of what I have to speak about, but we are located within the town of Plattsburgh. We provide emergency medical services for the town of Plattsburgh ambulance district. We are a combination volunteer and career staff. Total members, we have approximately 60 members between those two categories. We have 3 ambulances that we staff ALS, and that's through a partnership with the town of Plattsburgh over the many years. What has been mentioned earlier is mutual aid, so we did touch on it. I do want to bring to light that that number is on average 400 times a year. That's 400 times a year that ambulances have to come from outside the city to provide service inside the city. We have year to date already surpassed the amount of times that we've been mutual aided into the city. We are on track to double that this year. That is no fault of the members of the fire department. They do the best with what they have for staffing. I just think that that is a mismanagement point to the city of Plattsburgh. But if this annexation is to take place, you're now going to be getting a service coming from the city of Plattsburgh into something that they're kind of having a hard time covering as it is. And by growing further, that's going to put more undue stress onto that agency. Thank
you. Maybe make that announcement twice. Let the public hand raising off.
Okay.
You give some time.
I have some more.
Yeah, I'm saying do it twice maybe. Do it once now and then again.
Okay. Would any of the public attending remotely like to make comments?
So they need to raise their hand virtually through the Zoom.
You should raise your hand virtually.
And then we'll continue with in-person in the meantime.
Okay. Our next speaker is Eric Day, South Plattsburgh Fire Department.
Good evening. Eric Day. Many of you know me as the Director of Emergency Services for the county. I'm not here wearing that hat this evening. I'm here to speak as a member of the South Plattsburgh Fire Department, Assistant Chief of that agency, and as a taxpayer of the town of Plattsburgh. My message simply is to express my concern as a taxpayer that movement with this annexation could potentially set a precedent for future erosion of the boundaries of the town of Plattsburgh, and thereby negatively impacting members of my fire department and the individuals that we serve, and also myself and the other residents of the town as taxpayers. And simple as that. Thank you.
And are there any members of the remote viewing public wishing to raise their hand virtually? Okay. Our next speaker is R. Scott Ewing from District 3 Fire Department.
Good evening, I'm Scott Ewing, I'm the fire chief for the town of Plattsburgh, District 3 Volunteer Fire Department. We are one of 5 fire districts that provide fire, specialized rescue, and EMS services within the town of Plattsburgh. Our department currently has a membership roster of 40 firefighters. All members are trained and certified by state fire instructors from New York State Office of Fire Prevention and Control. District 3 firefighters respond to approximately 450 fire, rescue, and EMS assist calls in our district and under mutual aid to the surrounding districts, to include the city of Plattsburgh. We have 2 fire stations located in the north and south side of our fire district. Station 1 is located on Wallace Hill Road. Station number 2 is located on Hammond Lane, which is within a mile of the property of the proposed annexation on Reid's Lane. On average, our response time is under 5 minutes from the time the alarm is notified till the first piece of apparatus is on the road and responding. Average firefighters per call, 6 to 8. Our state-of-the-art fire suppression apparatus consists of 3 fire engines, 100-foot aerial platform, heavy rescue, wildland capability, and additional utility vehicles. Mutual aid is automatic for the area of the proposed annexation on Reid's Lane, with Morrisville and South Plattsburgh fire departments responding to an incident in that location. In the past, our agency has responded several times to the city of Plattsburgh water and sewer facility located on the end of Reid's Lane. We have encountered structure fires, hazardous incidents, and rescue situations involving staff at the facility. Our agency, along with our mutual aid companies, have proven numerous times that fire, rescue, and EMS incidents in the town of Plattsburgh are performed in a timely and professional manner with dedicated trained personnel, both fire and EMS. This annexation, if approved, will result in a direct financial impact on our fire district. Thank you.
Are there any members of the remote viewing public who wish to raise their hands virtually? Okay. There is one speaker left who signed up tonight. Denise Nephew, City of Plattsburgh.
Denise is left already.
She left, okay. Okay. The next item on the agenda are the.
Mike, excuse me. You may want to announce if any other members of the public want to speak, they can as well.
Certainly. Any other members of the public wish to speak? The chair recognizes Ira Barbell, City of Plattsburgh.
Thank you. It's short and interesting this evening. I'm not an expert in any of these issues, but a couple of things struck me, and I cannot comment on a lot of the stuff that Trevor brought up here, or with the city. What I wanted to comment a little about is we talk about what's the benefit and what's the downside, and I didn't hear too much about that. I heard a lot about tax. And some comments about, well, the city wants to do this because it might save taxes for the city. And I said to myself, well, what the heck's wrong with that if you want to save taxes? Or if you want to create something, we're going to generate some additional revenue. And the city is in a unique position in this county. It provides regional services. Who has a library that serves the area? The city spends $750,000 a year to support that library for other people, not just city residents. Who has a beach? Who maintains that beach? It's the city. Nobody else is putting any money into that. You look at the Crate Center for winter sports. Who's supporting the Crate Center so that soccer teams, flag football, whatever, can play. These aren't city. I'm talking about Shazy, Beekmantown, Peru, other places. Not a dime. It's the city who supports that. Who holds a Christmas parade every year that draws people from around the county? You know, who provides these events that draw people from around the county? That all costs money for the city. The city's in the same kind of financial straits that every other town, every other jurisdiction has. This is an effort by the city to see, is there a way to expand revenue to come into the city? Not because it's just going to go to city residents, but because the city is providing a lot of services that are benefits, if you want to talk about benefits that might accrue from this effort. Those are the benefits that I think about when I think about, you know, can the city continue to do that? Or do these things disappear at some point because the city's not able to expand in some way the ability to generate additional revenue? I think there's fair criticism that was made about, can't we get more out of the property that we have in the city? And we surely hope we are. Now, this county, the city council just created a local development corporation because we want to see, is there another strategy that could produce better results for what we're doing in the city? I don't know if it'll work. Anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about benefits. I think that strike me as something that you don't hear too much about in this process. Thanks.
Once again, I'll ask if any remote viewers have raised their hands virtually. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Okay, we come to the part of the agenda that is closing statements. And we'll start with the city of Plattsburgh. Mayor Reid, 5 minutes.
First of all, let me thank all the various presenters tonight for the town and the city as well. And thank you all for the members of the public who came to speak. You know, tonight I couldn't be more proud of some of the department heads from the city that have described to a broader community some of the things that we offer and some of the values that we create. And we don't create this value just for the city and its residents. Mr. Cole very accurately stated, I'm very proud of the town for having an total assessment value that's larger than the city's. That's absolutely true. And what you might also want to know is the $1.5 billion of the city has an assessed property value. A third of that is exempt. It's exempt to provide for our churches and their colleges, another faculty member, president faculty member here, for our municipal hospital, for our beaches and our parks, all the things that I hope every one of you avails yourself to and enjoys. But we don't collect any taxes from those. Those are exempt properties. But we're very pleased at the ability to offer so much to this entire region. And that's something we really hang our hat on and we try to do as best we can. And like I said, I could not be more proud of the electrical service, the 100% renewable electricity we provide this region, to the excellent water source with 3 to 5 times the capacity we need, which we share with the town abundantly. We offer to give them as much water as they ever need for whatever price they can afford, because we have that. And when there's a fire on Route 3, we put that out for them with our water. We don't send a bill to them because we want to take care of our surrounding communities. You know, I'm also sometimes a town resident. I'm very grateful for all the town has to offer too. You know, we felt it was appropriate to join the town tonight in this town facility in the interest of collaboration. You know, maybe the town doesn't think quite so highly of the city as we do of the town, but nonetheless, we want to help ourselves, help the town, and help our region at the same time. One of our big assets, beyond the ones I already mentioned, is our 100% renewable electricity. Despite the town's back of the envelope miscalculations, For one of our industrial facilities alone, they save $1 million per year by purchasing town or city electricity rather than town electricity. That makes a huge difference with any slight property tax differentials, maybe to the tune of $10,000 or $20,000 compared to a $1 million savings from electricity. So this is the asset that we have to offer, and as well as our amenities, it's very inexpensive, 100% renewable electricity. Now, I wish the town well, and we're very proud of the town's immense successes. I'm also grateful that you've all taken your time to come and hear the city's case for what we think we can do with some of our own land that we've bought and paid for to try to add more jobs. I calculate between 400 direct jobs and another 300 indirect jobs for the entire region, knowing that, as Mr. Cole stated, there is not an awful lot of available housing in the city. Many of the things that are going to accrue from this site, this lies fallow for so long, will accrue primarily to the town of Plattsburgh, Beacontown School District, and the surrounding areas, because that's where people are going to live when they come and work in the facility that we hope to produce for this entire region. That has gone fallow, has not been able to generate any economic success, because we have not been able to bring cheap power to it yet. Hopefully that will change. Anyway, I want to leave this message that I really hope this town has all the success in the world. We're very proud of you, and we hope you're proud of us too. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor Cashman to make closing statements. 5 minutes.
One might always say, battery or not, I'm always mic'd up. The worst joke, but I wrote it myself. Anyways. Good evening, folks. I won't use the full 5-minute allotment. I want to make a personal statement so that any member of my council could make their own. But I want to personalize it for me. Over the last umpteenth years, there seems to be a great battle of minds and personalities that people have, that the town has it out for the city has it out for the town, and so on and so forth. You know, one of my fondest memories happened in the city of Plattsburgh, and that is the fact that my wife and I got married on the stairs of Hawkins Hall. My care and my love for the city of Plattsburgh resides in my heart because it's a place for me as well. The city is a very valuable place. We are not talking about that though. We're talking about a very specific process in importance to the municipal attributes and characteristics and resources of municipalities. At the beginning of this, I talked about going back through history as the portion that is now the city became the village, and then, you know, became the city of today. We are providing the best benefit to the public and the region overall. And we will continue to carry that in partnership. And we look forward to many opportunities moving forward to sitting down and having collaborative conversations on how we move this region forward, or more importantly, continue to move this region forward. So I will say that the argument continued to be made that the city of Plattsburgh does not need more property. It does need a plan to manage the properties in the space it has. The beach, for example, partner with other municipalities for intermunicipality agreement. Recreation, city's not really engaged fully in the recreation component right now. Provide opportunities for an intermunicipality agreement with other towns, villages within the county right now. All of those do not need to be on the backs and the shoulders of the town of Plattsburgh and this particular footprint of this particular property. Be reminded, the city of Plattsburgh chose to buy that property. They chose to buy that property, which means that it was self-harm. It was something that they chose to take on the burden not knowing if it would occur to be able to be annexed. And in fact, there was great missed opportunity in this arena and others that the city did not come and have this type of presentation with our town board well in advance, talking about those collaborations. The offer has been on the table many times for us to have a town board to council meeting, which the city has rejected. So with that, the process begins into the next Ernst, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you all very much tonight for coming. And I do, as Trevor said, please make sure to get our materials because facts matter.
At this point, I'd like to ask the city councilors of the city of Plattsburgh and the members of the town board, if you object to keeping the comment period open for 1 week.
To allow for written submissions.
To allow for a written submission. Anyone opposed to keeping the comment period open for 1 week? Seeing no hands, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Seconded by Mayor Reid.
You do a roll call vote for everyone?
Roll call. Okay.
City. Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Mayor Reid?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland left? That's all for us.
Motion to adjourn, Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Meg LaFay,
Yes.
Barbara Hebert,
Yes.
Charles Costick,
Yes.
and Michael Cashman.
Yes.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.